UFC 287, my word, more stacked than the storage room at Hooters. It's gonna be good old-fashioned chaos. It's actually illegal to hate someone whose name is Gilbert. It's extreme. And a note from his mum. He's like one of those rare unicorns that really kind of gets more dangerous as the fight gets into those later rounds. Kevin Holland hasn't retired, if you can believe it. If we don't count the illegal scuffle with Colby in a car park, Jorge hasn't won a fight since 2019. Beef with a child. Love, that's heartwarming, isn't it? Wholesome. Bring back Robbie Lawler. I don't buy it, Jorge. His special license. Chris Curtis's chips. It feels like the UFC is just constantly trying to one-up itself this year, and I ain't complaining. Don't hear me complaining. What's that song? I don't know. I spoke about the main event last week, so these are my fights to watch. Mine, not yours, on the undercard. Let's go, Ego! We're going to start by pouring a hell of a lot of salt on Chris Curtis's chips. Curtis is facing Gastelum, probably the biggest fight of his career, and yet that is not where the drama is occurring. Oh no, he's got beef with a child. Curtis v Gastelum has made its merry little way to the prelims, and you might be thinking, yeah lolly, but remember what you just said about Hooters? I do. Gastelum has been inactive for so freaking long, we barely even remember when he unleashed the dog in Adesanya. He was supposed to fight as the main event on the first card of the year, but he got herpes or something. And we were supposed to see him last April, but he got injured then as well. Needs to be wrapped in bubble wrap. It was August of 2021 the last time we saw old Kelvin out, and he lost to Jared Cannonier. Time before that, loss. Despite the recognition for his name and also, you know, the things he achieved a long time ago, you would be forgiven for thinking a prelim spot is about right. But Chris Curtis is mad. He thinks he's earned his spot on the main card by taking on anyone and anyone and sons. Anyone and everyone the UFC has put in front of him, sometimes at the last minute, and taking home the W 4 out of the last 5 times. And he's even more mad that his old grandpa-ass has been kicked to the curb for a starry-eyed child who only has 1 fight and 1 win in the organisation. Of course we're talking about Raul Rosas Jr, youngest to ever do it. Do what? I don't know. This kid needed a special license. A special license from the Nevada Athletic Commission and a note from his mum for his fight in the Contender Series. And then he dominated his opponent from pillar to post en route for the decision win. Less than 3 months later, he got a neck crank stoppage over Jay Perrin at UFC 282 in less than 3 minutes, earning himself a POTN, 50k, a minivan for his mama, and 7-0. Oh, and a spot above Curtis. Now I get why people are super excited for the prospect of this child, of what this child, I'm going to stop calling him a child, of what Rosas Jr. might achieve in the future, but I'm kind of with Curtis on this one. I'm more excited about seeing whether Gastelum has anything left in the tank after all these setbacks and at his ascending age, if he's still as dangerous as he once was. This isn't going to be a fancy fight, a show of technique. It's going to be good old-fashioned chaos. Both of them just swinging until there's nothing left in terms of energy, consciousness, or both. Whereas in the Rosas fight, I feel it's very one-sided. Like, maybe you can argue that Rosas should have a spot on the main card, but can you do the same for his opponent? Can you even name his opponent? It does feel as though the UFC is just recognising the star power and doing their promotional thing and trying to propel that forward. But they're doing it by both putting him on the main card and giving him a very winnable opponent. Now, it should be either or if we care for the sport at all, if we care for the fight, if we care about more than just putting money in the UFC's pocket. Like, by all means, put him on the main card, but give him a fucking challenge. I'll get off my soapbox. Battle Batman is back. Kevin Holland hasn't retired, if you can believe it. And following their incredible fight against Wonderboy, he has landed himself another big hitter in the form of Santiago Ponzinibbio. Despite breaking his hand against Wonderboy, it does not feel like he's been out that long. Because he hasn't. So maybe he's just trying to capitalise as much as possible on the solid that he did for the UFC back in last year, and maybe he's just got this kind of renewed passion for the sport since they have agreed to keep giving him opponents that are unlikely to wrestle him. Now, last time we saw Santiago out, which again wasn't very long ago, but before that there was a whole issue with him. Last time we saw him out, he did struggle against Alex Morono. He had a last minute opponent switch from Robbie Lawler, which would have bring back Robbie Lawler. But then we saw him get a last minute stoppage with a massive shot that snapped his 2-fight losing streak. And both of these guys are looking to regain momentum before it's too late. But both of them have careers to fall back on should they fail to do so. Lovely. Love, that's heartwarming, isn't it? Wholesome. Santiago is on the UFC broadcast team, and Kevin Holland is in the news every other day, building his brand. Since we last saw him fight in the Octagon, which again was not long ago, we've seen him fighting battles all over the shop. There was this rumour that he took on Joseph Holmes at Extreme Knockout 60. It's extreme. No wasted vowels. Holmes claimed that Holland set his boys on him. It's like West Side Story. I've never seen West Side Story. Is that inaccurate? Is that inaccurate? And then Holland took to Instagram and was like, oh no, he grabbed me first. And there was no jumping. Don't get it twisted. He even said that that Holmes got himself into a fight, I assume with the aforementioned boys, and it was actually Holland that broke it up because he is a do-gooder. And then he basically just accused Holmes of using his name for clout. Clout is one of my favourite words, FYI. But Holland is an equal opportunities fighter and is also prepared to take on those who definitely do not need to ride the tailwinds of his celebrity. Following the announcement of the UFC's deal with Prime, Holland called out Logan Paul and KSI for talking all about fighter pay, but not practicing what they preach, i.e. sending the fighters like Prime merchandise, but not offering to pay them for, you know, any kind of promotion. Now, in terms of this matchup, Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's a powerful fighter he's like one of those rare unicorns that really kind of gets more dangerous as the fight gets into those later rounds. He's got that do-or-die spirit, and as the timer is ticking along, he manages to pull that extra power, that extra energy, that extra necessity from somewhere, and it's a scary thing, I imagine, to be stood across from. But Holland fights for the crowd, and I think this is gonna be a war. Now, we've seen it in the Wonderboy fight that he may not be prepared to call it, but his corner will. I don't think it's going to come to that. I do think that Santiago is going to inflict more damage. I do think he's going to get the decision, but I think it's going to go the full time because this one's only a 3-round fight. And of course, last but probably not least, Jorge Masvidal. He's taking time out of his busy schedule to do his job. If we don't count the illegal scuffle with Colby in a car park, Jorge hasn't won a fight since 2019. But he's been keeping active in other ways, fighting lawsuits, running his own promotion, having a go at Conor for running from him, pouring proper 12 on his feet, splitting up with his management, leaving them on very bad terms. What else has he been up to? Oh, and apparently dodging fights with active prospects, if Gilbert Burns is to be believed. Burns, on the other hand, has been keeping himself very warm for Jorge. He got the first round submission over Neil Magny not very long ago, and before that we saw him in that incredible fight against Hamzat. Now, Jorge's last win, the aforementioned last win, was for the BMF title against Nate Diaz, and Gilbert says that that title should be up for grabs in this matchup. Please, Gilly. You are much too adorable to be up for the baddest motherfucker title. Please. Please. You gotta have some grit about you. A few felonies and a pool of haters. No one hates Gilbert Burns. It's actually illegal to hate someone whose name is Gilbert. With Jorge having so many plates spinning, and with one of his promotion's own events happening at the same time, is he going to be focused? Is he going to be focused on training? Is he going to be focused on his opponent? Is he going to be focused on the fight itself on the night? Or is he going to be pulled in too many different directions to give this the props it deserves, you know? He says the timing works out for him because he can fully immerse himself in the fight world. I don't buy it, Jorge. I honestly think the distractions and his inactivity will work against him. Burns has been staying active, putting on incredible fights even when he's lost, and I just think he's more hungry, he wants this win more, but he also wants to ascend more, and he's more focused for sure. One thing we do know is there is a lot at stake here. You know, Burns did miss out on that big old shiny belt, and he's missed out on a couple, or one since, I think he's won 2 out of his last 4, but again, incredible performance, but still, if you're just looking at record, so yeah, he could do with this one. But Jorge has so much on the line. If he loses, that could be it for him ever really kind of competing in the upper echelons. But if he wins, he's almost guaranteed a fight with Leon because of their history. There's been bad blood since that backstage brawl, and Leon has basically said that even though Jorge wouldn't do the same for him back in the day, he wants that fight. He's gonna give Jorge that fight. He wants to settle the score, and yeah, we want to see that. But all of this coming into fruition relies on a lot more than a hand raise. Jorge needs to also stay out of jail. Big stakes, baby. Let me know which fights you are most looking forward to seeing on this huge card. And, you know, we gotta give honourable mentions to pretty much every other fight, like Rob Font and Adrian Yanez. Yes! And I'll leave you with this. Be Joe Pyfer! Be Joe Pyfer! Be Joe Pyfer!